I'm going to hit you with a couple truths about strength coaches. Number one, we all secretly want to have big biceps. Number two, we also secretly like to bench press when nobody's watching. Number three, we love to argue about semantics or phraseology. Today I'm going to chat with you about the goalie specific training lie. Welcome back to Goalie Training Pro TV. My name is Maria Mountain, and according to some, I am a liar. And I am a liar because I use the word goalie-specific training. And here's where we get into a little bit of semantics, because to some, goalie-specific training means exactly trying to mimic the movements you do on the ice, except off the ice and with added external load. And that's actually not what it means to me. To me, goalie-specific training means adding some very specific movement patterns or positions to help a goalie develop some of the tools that they're going to be able to use on the ice. So it's not trying to replace being on the ice. I think we can all agree that the best way to become a better goalie is to be on the ice goalieing. and hopefully ideally with a coach that's helping you refine your technique and your positioning and all that stuff. Off-ice training is about trying to fill the toolbox with tools that goalie can use on the ice. Think of it as a spectrum, if you will. So most goalie specific, is being on the ice goalieing. Least goalie specific might just be deadlifting, doing biceps curls, so we're going to be somewhere in this spectrum. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do is help an athlete who happens to be a goalie stay healthy and develop their potential.
And the truth shall set you free.
But there are different opinions. If there was one way to do it, we'd all do it the same way and everyone would get great results. But I'm interested to know what's your impression or what are your thoughts on goalie specific training? Do you think it really is enough to, in the gym, let's just get strong? Like that's what the gym is for. Let's just get strong. Let's leave all the specific development for on ice. Or do you think that, yes, there are some specific exercises, positions, movement patterns that we can do off the ice that really will translate on the ice so we get more bang for our buck out of those ultra-specific goalie training sessions? Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think on this. I'm interested. A few weeks ago, a strength coach took exception to an exercise that I had created for you to help you perform better on the ice. And I think he might have misunderstood the purpose behind what I'm trying to achieve with that exercise. He interpreted the purpose of the exercise, and I'll show it to you in a second, and I'll go through what my thought process was behind it. But he interpreted the exercise to be trying to mimic making a half split save while doing shoulder press. And even when I say it like that, it's like, yeah, that sounds really silly. That wasn't the thought process behind it when I came up with that exercise. And probably someone else has created that exercise as well. So I'm not going to name it after myself or anything. But let me give you the thought process I had when I came up with it. This is the exercise. It is a half groin shoulder press. And it does look like, yeah, you're trying to make a half split save and you're doing the shoulder press. So it does look that way. What I'm trying to do is really trying to do a shoulder press. I'm trying to put my adductors in a lengthened position. One of the things we talk about sometimes is strength at length. There actually isn't a whole lot of resistance here. I'm not having to really work to hold this position. My foot is supporting me and I'm just in a nice stretched position. But we also know that time under tension has an impact on connective tissue quality. And since this is an area, this is a chain that is really susceptible to injury as goalies, if I can put that in a lengthened position, put some time under tension to work on that tissue quality, then while I'm doing my shoulder press, that's not a bad idea. One of the arguments or the issues that strength coach had was that, oh, well, now I'm limited in how much I can shoulder press by how much weight, by what my groin can tolerate. It hasn't been my experience. It's an exercise that I've used for several years, and that isn't a limiting factor for the goalies that I work with. So again, everybody has goalies at different stages of training, different types of training. So I'm not saying that isn't an issue for the goalies he works with. The goalies that I work with, it's the shoulder that gets fatigued. Again, this isn't really doing a lot of work. It's just in that sustained lengthened position. I also like it because from watching these videos that our adductors integrate with our abdominal muscles, that our muscles kind of work in chains, they're fascial connections. So if we're always kind of doing our movements in a neutral stance or even in a staggered stance, it's symmetrical. So this is a way too, when I'm doing a press here, my body wants to get pulled this way. So my obliques and my erectors have to work on this side to help hold me in a neutral position. So it just changes too a little bit the stimulus in my torso. We know when we're on the ice, our torso needs to be able to work in a variety of positions and with our legs and arms in different positions in an asymmetrical way. So hey, here's maybe a way too that we can give a little bit of neural input to that. So that is the thinking behind this. What fatigues as I go through is really my shoulder is what gets tired first. And that's what I find in the goalies that I work with. But again, different people might feel it different ways based on their training experience and background. But if I did have a goalie who is experiencing pain in this position, then I would be a little suspicious that maybe there's some dysfunction. So try to get at the root of that discomfort. And definitely I wouldn't keep, insisting that they do this exercise. You also know as a goalie that some of the movements you need to do on the ice as a goalie are not natural whatsoever. And then we add the weight and the bulk of equipment. We add the height of a skate blade. We add the instability of being on ice. And that adds a lot of complexity to the problem. So let's consider the RVH, for example. Some of you grew up playing RVH and it feels very natural to you. Some of you struggle with it. Some of you are learning it. Some of you have been away from the game and you're just coming back and now there's this new, what is this butterfly? What is this RVH? And those are motor patterns. So as weird as they are and as much as it feels like you just kind of slide into it, it is a motor pattern. And it's one that isn't familiar to our body. Why would our hip know how to do that? Why would our torso know how to do that? So if we can find a way to teach and reinforce that movement pattern, to teach some efficiency of that pattern away from the ice in an unloaded way. So I'm not saying we should go smashing into our RVH with a barbell on our back or dumbbells or anything like that. I'm saying, hey, can we teach that pattern where we're assisting the movement and letting your brain and your hips kind of get a sense of, oh, okay, I kind of know what I'm supposed to do. So I'll show you an example. So if we come in here, I have a super band. It's a purple super band, so it's pretty heavy resistance. And I can come into this RVH position. I can get over that leg. I can feel, okay, what does this feel like when I'm just in this position? But then I can also use the band. Remember, the band's pulling me out of this to help me kind of learn how to recover, how to use not just this leg, but also this leg to help recover a little bit, because that is a very odd pattern. And even if I just did it without this band for the first time, that would probably feel a little bit uncomfortable. But the fact that the band is helping to pull me out of it. Now I can sort of slow it down, give my body a chance to get more efficient with that pattern. We're not doing high volume, we're not doing high speed, we're not adding resistance to it, we're just trying to work the pattern, and then our body is going to learn. And yes, it's going to be different when you have skates and pads and everything on. Like I talked about earlier, there's a spectrum, or there's good, better, best. But this is a way that we can help build a little strength, maybe improve mobility, or highlight a lack of mobility, where I really need to work. Even with the assistance, it's like, oh, I can't get into that position. Okay, that directs us to maybe some different exercises. But yeah, I consider that a goalie specific exercise because it is working a pattern, it's building a tool that then you can use specifically on the ice. Does that make sense to you? You definitely drop a comment. Let me know if that makes sense. I can see what you're trying to do there. If you have a question about it, drop that down below too, and I'd gladly help you out. And again, not high volume, not high speed. If you're having pain when you do that, it's just like any other exercise. If you were having pain when you were back squatting or deadlifting, I'd look for, okay, how can we make this not painful for you? So same idea. If you have hip impingement and you're like, well, I can't do that because it's going to hurt my hips. Yeah, that's right. We need to work around that. And really at the end of the day, I rely on the feedback that I get from you guys, from the goalies that I work with, who tell me that they feel better on the ice, getting into and out of their RVH when we, I think Stu McGill would call it, when we groove that neural pattern a little bit in our off-ice training. And in terms of the name, yeah, I call it a goalie-specific exercise. You can call it a goalie supportive exercise or just strength training or whatever. It doesn't really matter the label we give it, but as long as, we find that, okay, let's help this goalie perform a little better on the ice. So I could go on for hours about this stuff because it is my passion and I'm not interested in getting into a tit for tat sort of thing. But if you've seen my full training programs, if you've been in one of my programs, then you know how important strength training is to me as well. You will find front squats, single leg squats, deadlifts, yes, even the bench press will be in my programs. It depends on the athlete, it depends on the phase of training, it depends on the athlete's training age, it depends on their history. There's a time and a place for everything. And yeah, some athletes, the number one priority for them is they need to get a lot stronger. But that doesn't mean that we can't include some of these specific exercises as part of that overall strength training program. There's nothing that says, no, if I'm trying to build strength, I can only do, bench, squat, deadlift. I can't do any supplemental exercises. We can design a program so that we're building big strength, but that we're also building stabilization, movement efficiency. My personal philosophy is always to start from the inside and work my way out. So I want them to be mobile and stable. Really, it's that sort of hand in hand with mobility. I want them to be able to move and I want them to be able to stabilize. And that often starts with the smaller muscles that are in closer to the joint. That's the inside out approach. Then I work my way out to the big muscles rather than starting with the big muscles and working my way in. And again, that's just my philosophy. It's based on my experience. You know that I started out for 5 years as the exercise specialist in a sport medicine clinic, rehabbing athletes and sending them back to play as soon as possible. And what I found was by starting with those small muscles, because their injuries, they just dislocated their shoulder, we can't be having them work hard on bench. So we had to work on scapular stabilization, rotator cuff, strength and stamina, and then their ability to sort of control impulses. And then they'd be back out on the football field. And what would happen is they'd come back telling me, hey, I felt better now than I did before, and I didn't even work on any of my big muscles. So that's the kind of lab experience I had that really formulated my philosophy to developing athletes. And that's a point too that this strength coach made in the podcast. Goalies need to be strong, which I 100% agree with. I was really glad to hear him say it, because there's so many goalies out there who think, oh, I'm just going to do body weight workout, or I'm just going to use light weights and high repetitions so I don't get bulky. If your program is designed properly, you're not going to lose any of your mobility by getting strong. If we think of it intuitively, and I've cut my teeth training athletes from all different sports. You know, I'll toot my own horn from time to time, but I've trained Olympic gold medalists in 3 different sports. I've trained athletes in every single major sport except NBA. I haven't trained an NBA player, but I've trained some Major League Baseball pitchers. And so intuitively, if we think of it, it's like a baseball pitcher doesn't get strong or just work on throwing a baseball and then, you know, do bench press or pull-ups or whatever just to get strong in the gym. You know intuitively that, yeah, they're going to work on some stabilization, some work for the specific work for their shoulder, for decelerating, for controlling the scapula as they decelerate at the end of the pitch. And it's the same thing. You know, yes, they're still getting strong. Yes, they're doing strength exercises. Yes, pitching a baseball is the most specific type of training for being a baseball pitcher, but you appreciate how these other things also feed in to that goal of making them injury resistant and help them reach their potential in their sport. And it's the exact same thing for goalies. I think of a goalie's hips the way I think of a baseball pitcher's rotator cuff and shoulder. The name we give it doesn't matter. In fact, in my mind, I just think of it as good training. I'm constantly asking myself the question, what does this athlete need to succeed? What's the fastest way I can get them there with the least amount of risk? Those are the guiding principles that I have when I design any program. So to me, it's just good training. When I design or make these YouTube videos or post things on Instagram, I use the term goalie specific a lot because that is what you're searching for. And if my mission is to help goalies anywhere in the world, regardless of your ability, whether you've been playing for 20 years or you just started last week, whether you're playing in the NHL or, you know, you're the very lowest level adult beer league, I don't care. I want to help you win more games with fewer injuries. So I want to make it so that you can find my stuff. And a lot of you, when you go to the search bar, are typing in goalie specific ... whatever. So I want to make it easy for you to find my stuff, and so I can help you out. I'm just making it easy for you. You're welcome. My pleasure. Finally, the final point is, I wholeheartedly agree. There are some terrible examples of goalie specific training. I made this video in 2019 talking about it. If you see a goalie wearing their skates and pads doing training off the ice, that's a big red flag. I've seen video from goalie camps with goalies doing agility ladder wearing their skates and pads. That's a red flag. But I think there's nothing wrong with doing training that's well thought out, that will help build the tools that you need to perform better on the ice, whether that's movement pattern, whether that's connective tissue quality, whether that's energy system. Not everybody has limitless access to ice. Some people, you know, might get on the ice once a week or twice a week, and they can't get that reinforcement of patterns, so we need to build that in to what they're doing off the ice. If you want to learn more about how my programs actually work, then just click the link in the description to find out more. And finally, I think I've said this is maybe the second or third time I've said finally in this video, but this time I think I really mean it. I want to be super clear. I'm not interested in getting into a back and forth about justifying why I do what I do. Somebody called people who use the term goalie specific liars. And man, when I grew up, them was fighting words. Someone called you a liar, you'd be like, oh! Like that. I know times have changed and we kind of throw around these words like, oh, you're a liar, you know. But yeah, so I thought, okay, well, because I know that you guys don't know the science behind it, so you're like, wow, you know, this guy made a compelling argument and he seems to know what he's talking about, and he's called, you know, Maria a liar, and you know, not specifically, but he said if you use the words goalie specific, you're a liar. So I just wanted to go over a few exercises, some of the thought processes, help you understand that, again, we're arguing semantics. So you can call it goalie specific, goalie supportive, or just good training. I don't think there are very many strength coaches or trainers out there who are liars. I think there are some who, maybe just don't have the experience. Maybe they're just learning. Maybe they have a very different approach, and maybe they get tremendous results for their goalies. Like I said earlier, if there were one right way to do it, everyone would do it the same way. So for me, a red flag would be when I come across a coach or like a goalie coach or a strength coach who's like, my way is the right way and the other ways are wrong. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe you're the first person to come up with the right way, but over the course of history, and certainly in my 25 plus years of experience, nobody has come up with the right way, because there's still so many different ways to get good results for your goalies. And I have my way of doing it based on my education and experience. Someone else is going to have their way of doing it, and not all goalies are looking for exactly the right thing. So I've come across a lot of goalies, and some very high-level goalies, who love what they're doing for training. Is it the way I would train a goalie? Not ever in your life. In fact, I think what they're doing is counterproductive, but they love it, and they're doing it, and they feel good. So who am I to say they can't do that? Variety is the spice of life, people. We can disagree without dislike. I learned that from Coach Boyle. So if you got any value from this, or a chuckle, or a thing that make you go hit me up with a like. Whether you think I'm a liar or not, just hit the like button, please. Thank you. And if it's okay with you, I will come back in next week, same bat time, same bat channel, with another goalie specific training video. If that's okay with you, drop a comment below. Let me be like, okay, I know, maybe you're lying, but that's okay. I will catch you then.